All right, folks, we want to go ahead and call this meeting to order and say thank you for joining us, whether you're here in person or live on Zoom or watching us later in the middle of the night when you can't sleep on YouTube. We want to say thank you for being here and welcome to our regular Board of Directors meeting. We'll start with our land acknowledgement. Dr. Sweeten.
We honor the First Peoples of these lands by acknowledging that the area in which we gather is within the traditional territory of the Stillaguamish tribe of Indians. The Stillaguamish people have inhabited these lands and waters since time immemorial, and their ancestors have remained in this territory to this day. The Stillaguamish people have continued to practice the traditional ways of their ancestors of fishing, hunting, and gathering. The Stillaguamish tribe has had these lands and cultural traditions passed on to them by their ancestors who believed that everything has a spirit and that they are caretakers of these lands and waters.
Thank you. Next, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Will everyone please rise and join me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll have our roll call attendance. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Kingman,
Here.
President Levesque,
Here.
Director Knapp,
Here.
Student Advisor Schroeder,
Here.
Student Advisor Laban, Superintendent Sweeting.
Here. Thank you. Next, we'll have our approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you. The agenda is approved. And that leads us to the first item on our agenda, which is our student presentation. We're very honored to welcome the Pioneer Elementary School and our principal, Sarah Durant. Would you like to introduce our guest?
I will.
And just a reminder to talk loudly towards the owl.
Okay, want to stand right here? Perfect, come on up.
Good evening, directors. I'm Sarah Durant, and I have the privilege of being the principal at Pioneer Elementary. Tonight, I have Kaylin, Madison, and Matthew, and they are here to share some of their experiences with inclusion and why it's important to them. We also have some video clips that show supports that are in place for students that are in inclusion. Supports look different for different students, and those supports help remove barriers. So for our first video clip, it is about Jaden. And Jaden is a second grader at Pioneer. He has a contagious smile and a beautiful singing voice. Jaden has autism and is nonverbal. One of his supports is peer mentors. So we are going to watch a clip of how his peers help him be successful in the classroom.
help him check in. No. No.
Good job.
He learning to fist bump. Fist bump. 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 99, 100. He talks more because we talk to him. Jaden's laughter reminds us to be ourselves and have fun.
And that is Jaden. Our next couple video clips are with Kaylin. So part of Kaylin's supports in writing is the use of technology. And Kaylin is in 5th grade, and she's going to share her final essay after we watch how she created this essay using the technology piece of Cami that she could speak into it, it will type it up, and then she has the ability to edit. So we're gonna watch you, Kaylin, first, and then you're gonna share your writing piece.
Okay.
There.
Awesome.
Perfect. Paper.
I like inclusion because I want to be with my friends in 5th grade. I went to 5th grade camp. The food at the camp was good. I ate it with my friends. My teachers for outdoor camp, Miss C and Miss Jasmine.
Miss Jasmine. Let's fix that. Yeah. I'm fixing that. There.
I like inclusion because I want to be with my friends in 5th grade. I went to 5th grade camp. The food at the camp was good. I ate it with my friends. My teachers for outdoor camp, Miss C and Miss Jasmine.
Better.
And then she works on it just a little bit more.
That's how I put it. My paper.
Yeah.
Other things that I have on at camp or sleeping in cabins or playing games. We have fun at fire building. Fire building. Yes! I got it!
Nice. You want to listen?
Yeah. They want to listen to my... They want to listen to me?
Go ahead.
They had to listen to life skills kids.
I like inclusion because I want to be with my friends in 5th grade. I went to 5th grade camp. The food at the camp was good. I ate it with my friends. My teachers for outdoor camp were Miss C and Miss Jasmine. I played kickball with my class and kicked a home run. Other things that I have on at camp or sleeping in cabins or playing games. We have fun at fire building this year in 5th grade. I learned all about history and I also presented a one-pager all about the Fennec Fox.
All right, so Kaylin, are you ready to read your final draft?
Yeah.
All right, you got this. So you're gonna face this way and go ahead and read it and remember it. Just nothing.
Yeah. Guys, this is my good luck one.
It's a great girl.
Okay, ready? I like inclusion because I want to be with my friends in 5th grade. I went to 5th grade camp. The food at the camp was good. I ate it with my friends. The teachers for outdoor camp were Miss C and Miss Jasmine. I played kickball with my friends. And I hit a home run. Other things that I did is I did with my friends. We at camp. We sleep in cabins We play games and we have fun at fire building. This year in fifth grade, I learned all about history and also presentation, one pager, all about the Fennec Fox. I had fun at school with my friends. We did the morning announcements together. We spent time together at recess. And we went we do groups. My autism helps me. My autism makes me good at history and good at drawing. And I spend time to but some things are little, but some things are hard. Like writing, reading, math tests, and some games. And when kids be rude to other kids outside, when things don't go well, Miss E texts on me. Sees what if I do my work. Help me not. What going on needs I need help. In PE, I figure out how to do Missy helped me figure out I able to do jump rope 14 times. My friends were proud of me, and Miss Ford is proud of me too.
Madison, and she is in the 4th grade.
Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about something very important. Inclusion. Inclusion means that everybody should be included no matter who they are or where they come from. If we're playing a game, we should let everyone join in, even if they're not the best at it. And if we see someone sitting on our lunch, we should invite them to sit with us to make them feel included. It's important to include and support special needs groups in our community too. We need extra help or accommodations, so they have just as much to offer as any other kid. Let's make sure they feel valued, empowered to reach their full potential. Together, we can create a more inclusive and welcoming community for everyone, including special needs kids. When we include everyone, we make the community a better place. So let's all try our best to be inclusive and make sure everyone feels like they belong. Thank you for listening.
And now we have Matthew, who is also in 4th grade.
Normal is just setting on a washing machine. No kid is normal, we are all different. So some kids have normal access to school. I hear some schools don't spend much money on teaching kids with disabilities, but I'm glad our school does. And I'm glad that my class includes all kids. There are many ways kids talk in my class. Some talk by speaking, some talk with an iPad, and some don't talk much at all. It's been good learning together and spending time together. We even make jokes together. Isn't that what should be normal? All of us spending time together despite our differences?
It's a little glimpse of inclusion, and I would welcome anybody that wants to come to Pioneer and to be able to see it in action. So, any questions for our students?
Oh my goodness, I thought it was beautiful. You guys did an amazing, amazing job. I can't remember what grade are you in, Madison? Fourth grade, okay. Are you guys looking forward to being in fifth grade?
Yes.
Year? Yeah.
I'm not only fifth grader.
Are you a fifth grader now? So are you looking forward to middle school?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exciting.
I also do things. Belly. Things. Running. Swinging. Having fun. Studying. Science. Writing. That's all.
Yep, those are all examples of something.
So many amazing things happening at your school.
Mhm.
Do we have any questions from any of our Zoom attendees?
I just want to say that I am so happy and just impressed with your ability to come and talk to us as adults and share how inclusion has become normal and part of the life at Pioneer. So thank you very much for being brave and coming and sharing that with us. We need to hear it. And we need to see it too.
Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you, families, for also supporting them coming tonight. We appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. And families, you're not obligated to stay if you don't want to. You could make yourself comfortable going home. That's fine. Thank you for being here. Next on the agenda is the approval of our minutes. We have our regular meeting minutes from March 27th, a special meeting event attendance minutes from March 28th, and special board meeting study session with board action and public comment minutes from April 10th. We're going to do these one at a time. Do we have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes? 7. Make a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the regular morning meeting minutes from March 27th.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the regular minutes from March 27th. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray, Director Ray, Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. Those minutes are approved. Next up is our special meeting event attendance minutes for March 28th.
I'll make a motion, we approve the special meeting event attendance minutes from March 28th.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the special meeting event attendance minutes for March 28th. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
I'll be aye on this one and the last one. Sorry about the audio failure.
oh, no worries, thank you. Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you. Those minutes are approved. Next up is our special board meeting study session with board action and public comment minutes from April 10th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the special board meeting study session and board action and public comment minutes from April 10th.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from April 10th. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. Thank you. Those minutes are now approved. Next up is our public comment portion of our meeting. Do we have anyone in the audience that has signed up to speak to the board tonight? You're missing out. So much fun. And we have no one on Zoom also, correct? Okay, we'll skip to the next part where there will be another opportunities. for a public comment if you'd like. And we would like to go on to the next portion of our agenda, which is our public hearing, Title VI, Indian Education. We'd like to welcome Carrie Hudson. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Right, there it is. Great, good evening, board. I'm here to present some information about the Title VI American Indian Alaska Native Education Grant. This is the same grant that we have had the last 2 years, but it needs to be presented and approved each year. So at this portion, I'll be presenting information about it, allowing public comments, and then later in the meeting, I will be asking for approval of this grant. So the Title VI grant is a federal grant, and so the federal law around this grant, I'll highlight some major points, is that the Title VI Indian Education Formula Grant Program represents the U.S. Department of Education's largest investment in addressing the unique academic and cultural needs of American Indian Alaska Native children. The funds are used to support academic enrichment, tutoring, and dropout prevention. The purpose of the grant is to support the efforts of the school district, Indian tribes and organizations, and other entities to meet the unique educational, cultural related academic needs, and also to ensure Indian students meet the same challenging state student academic achievement standards as all other students. And these funds are used to supplement and enrich the regular school program. For the program, so like I said, we've had the Title VI grant for the last 2 years. We've used the Title VI grant money to provide own voice resources into our elementary schools. And these resources supported the Since Time Immemorial curriculum, where each teacher has their own classroom library of resources. And then also this year, we've purchased all of those books also to be in our elementary school libraries. That also helps our Native American students feel a sense of belonging by having those own voice materials and resources in their classrooms, and appreciation for their culture. And so we believe that the academic success of Native students is grounded in a strong sense of that cultural belonging. And this is a grant application is due annually for federal funding through this program. So to review what we have spent the money for the last couple of years. So this is a multi-year application. And so will be year 3 of that 4-year grant. So year 1 was the 21-22 school year. We were awarded $8,564. Like I said, we used that money for classroom books. We bought art supplies for some art projects to build that cultural appreciation in the classrooms. We have purchased birth boxes from the Burke Museum, and Pioneer that year had the Burke Mobile actually come to their school and provide hands-on materials and experiences with the students. So the Burke boxes, just if you don't know, are portable kits of museum quality collection pieces and lessons, as well as activities that align to our state standards. They support classroom curriculum, highlight the natural world and Washington's cultural heritage. The Burke Museum is located on the University of Washington's campus. And then year 2, which is our current year, so the 22-23 school year. This year we were awarded $12,829. We purchased additional books to support the Since Time Immemorial, more Burke boxes, and that's when we purchased the elementary school libraries that support the intellectual growth, professional development, and individual interests. And we are right now getting ready to purchase some musical instruments for our elementary music classrooms. Those teachers have been working in conjunction with the Stillaguamish tribe to find what instruments we can purchase through this grant that they can use to bring music and culture more into the music classrooms. And then we also just purchased some art books for the art teachers to use in the classrooms. So this, like I said, is the 23-24 grant approval application. So there are two parts to the application process. Part one is already completed and it was due March 10th. And that part is only basically figuring out how many Indian students we have currently in our district that have completed the ED 506 forms. So right now, Title VI funding is calculated by some formula based on the number of students who have submitted an Office of Indian Education Title VI ED 506 student eligibility certification form, or in short, ED 506 form, documenting their American Indian or Alaska Native status. So the 506 forms need to be completed by the families so that it verifies that the student is an actual enrolled member of a tribe. So we have in our district about 237 Native American students, but we only have 46 that have actually filled out that ED 506 form, which is 15% increase than last year. So we're slowly getting the word out there through word of mouth, working with the Indian committee, the parent committee, working with the Stillaguamish tribe, just to let the families know the information. It's now in the application process and it's in the enrollment process also. So part two is a little bit more involved. So the first part of part two is that we needed to form an Indian parent committee. We need to meet at least annually with them. I need to present our project proposal, gain their feedback, and then get their approval on, yep, this sounds good. This will support our Native American students in our schools. We have to that Indian parent committee was on April 20th. So I just met with them last week. Some of the goals of theirs to monitor the effectiveness of the activities we identify for our Native students, looking at attendance data, graduation dropout data. And then we have decided at the April 20th meeting, we're going to meet quarterly next year just to keep that conversation going, because they really had some really wonderful ideas about how else we can support our students in our schools. And then the public hearing portion, which is this, and then each application must include a description of how we are going to use the Title VI funds in coordination with the overall comprehensive program plan. So how is it going to supplement what we're already doing in our schools? And then I have to submit budget information. How are we going to spend the money that we get from the grant? And that one is due by May 12th. So what we're talking about for next year is if we get this grant approved, we will be awarded $14,540. So even just a few more students adds a couple of $1,000s to our award. Our initial ideas, bringing in some assemblies, field trips, guest speakers, academic intervention after school, more own voices, books and other resources, looking at what our secondary schools need to also be in their libraries or in their classrooms. After meeting with the parent committee, they talked about possibly putting together a cultural night, maybe buying materials to make our own clappers and drums and moccasins in our classrooms. Continuing to support that All About Me resources, just building that cultural appreciation. Bringing in some language opportunities in the elementary schools, and then also bringing in some Native artwork just to hang up in our buildings. And then another thing we also heard, which isn't new, but also heard about just mental health supports that our Native American students also need support with. And so looking at ways to support them. And then any questions?
I have just a question. I vaguely remember the beginning of this. There was a short window for parents to sign their form. When does it come open and how long do they have to fill that out?
They actually can fill it out anytime, but it is part of that enrollment process.
Okay.
So if we have new students coming into the district, that's an opportunity for them to fill it out. But anytime a parent finds out about this form, they can reach out to their registrars or to Brenda or myself, and we can get them that form.
It would be great to get some more signed
Right,
up.
I know, exactly. Try.
And then a follow-up question.
Yeah.
How many parents do you have on that parent committee?
Well,
Are
we
you trying to
only
recruit more?
have 3,
Okay.
but we're looking for more and they're looking to recruit as well. And we also, so we have 3 parents. We have a member from the Stillaguamish tribe, and then we have a teacher, so we have to fill those parts of the parent committee. And then myself and Brenda joined us.
And do we publicize the need for these parents? Do parents know?
Not yet.
Okay.
We do work with the
We,
education department through the tribe and they
Yeah.
communicate and that's an important piece.
and we did reach out last year. We sent an email to all of our families that had that EB 506 forms asking for involvement. But we didn't.
And we also, they have a back to school kind of resource fair,
Resource
the
fair.
Stillaguamish, and I know then Gary Siegel and myself went to that and we had a table and we passed out and had those forms right there at that table for the folks to fill out for the families.
But a couple of the parents that are on the committee have taken that on as one of their tasks.
Yeah, I think in the first part listening, it was a lot of not resources, it was books and art supplies and like tangible items, and I definitely agree with the parent group that what was kind of missing was the mental health part of it and the cultural night and all of that, those visuals of the artwork and getting more community involvement, especially, from their culture.
Yeah.
Enhances that sense of belonging. So I guess I'm wondering, is that too late to add those elements to? Okay.
No, when I met with the parent committee, we went over these things and they wanted the application, which I have to submit by May 12th, to be a little broad.
Okay.
So that then we can fill in those pieces that you're referring to.
Great.
In the way that the parent committee sees it.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Any board members that are on Zoom have any questions?
No questions. I just love to see this and I'm encouraged to have more participation from the community as parents, as this would grow and continue to get their feedback.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
next up on our agenda is our public hearing comments regarding Title VI, the Indian Education Grant. And I have a little script to read. We will now open the public hearing regarding the Title VI Indian Education Grant. Now I'm going to ask, are there any questions or comments from audience members regarding this topic? And again, I'm going to ask a second time, are there any questions or comments from audience members regarding this topic? And then a third and final time, I get to ask, are there any questions or comments from audience members regarding the Title VI Indian Education Grant? Since there are no questions, I declare the public hearing closed and the approval of the grant application is on the agenda tonight for the board approval under new business. Thank you. Next up is our consent agenda. And our consent agenda includes our budget and enrollment reports, personnel report, payroll report, warrants, an overnight trip for the AHS cheer, an overnight trip for the AHS medical club, and an overnight trip for the AHS FFA, what letters, and an out-of-state trip for the AHS Sports Medical Club, and a cooperative agreement with Capella University, and an interlocal agreement with Northwest ESD 189, and an authorization to purchase a replacement boiler for Pioneer Elementary, and surplus item. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, or is there anything anyone would like to pull?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
The consent agenda is adopted. Next is our new business portion of our meeting. And the first thing in our new business is our donation from the Arlington Education Foundation, the AEF, with their spring mini grants. And I'd like to welcome up to the podium, Kevin S. from the Arlington Education Foundation. Welcome, Kevin.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. All right, well, as you mentioned, I'm Kevin S., the project director for the Arlington Education Foundation. And it is, as always, my honor tonight to present and announce to you the recipients of the AEF Spring 2023 Classroom Mini Grants. So before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about our grants, as I usually do. This is the foundation's 12th year awarding classroom mini grants. And in those 12 years, we have now proud to say we've awarded over $155,000 in grant awards. So this spring, we received 18 applications, and we are fully funding 13 of those outstanding grant requests tonight. And that totals $11,053.27 to, of course, 13 very deserving teachers and or grade teams within the district. So before I announce the recipients, a little more about the grants. Applications are distributed to all teachers through their building principals. This happens in both the spring and the fall. Included with the application is the scoring criteria that we use to review and ultimately approve those grants. Each application is reviewed against these following criteria. They have to have clear standards-based academic goals, provide long-term sustainable benefits, promote inclusion, is that inclusion word, and equity, have an innovative idea or some sort of element of technology, and ideally they have an opportunity for family or even community involvement. So grants are structured to limits of $500 for individual classroom teachers to submit, or $1,250 for grade team or department submissions. So of course, we're hoping that many of the recipients are here tonight. So when I call your name or announce the grant, please come up, and I've got some certificates. I'm going to briefly say a little bit about each grant, and then if you would stick around till the end, I think Gary wants to get a picture.
Or you can take it right out.
Okay.
Might be some people on Zoom too,
Okay.
possibly.
All right, well, if you are on Zoom tonight, I'm going to save these certificates, and we will do our very best to get those certificates out to those recipients that are not here in person. All right, so starting us off, a grant for $1,250 to the Eagle Creek K-5 grade team. This grant is titled Growing Strong 2023. This is for the purchase of materials to continue the great school and community success of the Eagle Creek School Garden. Materials include butterfly and ladybug larvae for the pollination garden, replacement wood chips and weed blocks, replacement sprinkler hardware, including hoses, tomato cages, rain barrels, replacement pollinator house, and lumber to repair planter boxes and the school potting bench. Next up, we have a grant for $1,250 to the Kent Prairie Occupational Therapist and Special Education Team. This grant is entitled Trauma Informed Social and Sensory Support Strategies for Emotional Regulation. This is for the purchase of a set of resources to develop a program for students struggling with emotional regulation and targeted at supporting students that come from a trauma background, those with diminished social skills, and those that simply need more sensory support. Supplies proposed include books, cards, and activities, lights, blankets, a sensory swing, chair bands, pillows, and if you can believe it, even more, to provide regulation stations for those students to utilize to get into the zone of regulation. Next, we have a grant, $1,250 to the Pioneer Elementary K-5 grade team. This grant is
I think
entitled,
some of those are here.
yeah, come on up.
Here, come up.
Access to quality literature for all.
I think
Oh, the sensory center, you're here. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
And now Mrs. Goulet. Access quality literature for all learners. Thank you. This grant is for the purchase of box books for students to access in the library and for teachers to check out for use in their classrooms. Each box book includes a built-in audiobook feature that reads the story aloud with the touch of a button or the turn of a page. These books will be supportive resource for all students and especially developing readers and students in the life skills program. Next grant, $300 to Janelle Rose, fourth grade teacher at Pioneer. Come on up. Congratulations. This grant is entitled Entry Task STEM Bins. This is for the purchase of supplies to create STEM bins for her classroom for use in the students' daily entry tasks. Activities will include a variety of hands-on materials, including wood pattern blocks, magnetic tiles, snowflake toys, Picasso tiles, and more, allowing the students to work individually, in pairs, or even in small groups to be creative, engage in hands-on learning and exploring. Next, we have a grant for $500 for Eagle Creek. This was to Lisa Thompson, third grade. Grant is entitled Third Grade Math Centers. So Lisa. This is for the purchase of math centers and games to help reinforce third grade math standards. These supplies will be used by students individually, in groups, and with parent volunteers. Supplies to be purchased include, of course, math games, quiz cards, learning centers, and whiteboards. Next grant is for $337.74 to Elsa Lemon. Very specific.
Shipping.
We asked, including shipping. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is for a grant entitled Instrument Tuners. It's for a purchase for a class set of instrument tuners. Tuners will aid in daily acoustic guitar and ukulele tuning, allowing the students to be ready to play more quickly and focus more on playing their instruments and learning their music lessons. Next is a $500 grant to Riley Anderson, third grade at President's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Grant is entitled ELA and Math Reinforcement Tools for the purchase of materials to assist students at a wide range of levels in math and reading. Purchases are to include power pin sets, phonics word match sets, graph and array charts, math machine sets, and more to increase fluency in math and to assist with reading conventions, blending, and phonological awareness. $1,250 to the Eagle Creek K-5 grade team. This is for a grant entitled Increasing Math Fluency and Engagement in the Intervention Classroom Using Student Choice UDL.
Thank you.
Hey, you're right.
Yes.
Here we are.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh.
Great grant. This is for the purchase of hands-on tools and learning materials to aid in grasping math concepts. Purchases will include poppets, modern pattern blocks, games, Rec and Rec rods, and more. I'm gonna have to Google Rec and Rec rods, by the way. Yeah.
Basically an abacus.
All right, that helps.
Yeah.
Supplies will be for all Eagle Creek students participating in intervention groups and will provide a variety of tools that students can use to select learning activities that best provide themselves their best possibilities and opportunities for success. $500 to Darcy Larson, President's Elementary. Yeah, thank you. This grant is titled Chain Reaction STEM Exploration, Rube Goldberg Mechanics. This is for the purchase of tracks, structured building bricks and blocks, straw constructor toys, tinker toys, dominoes, connects levers, pulleys, all for her students to use in creating Rube Goldberg machines or energy transfer machines in their studies of STEM exploration through motion and energy. Next, we have a $1,200 grant to the Howler Middle School sixth grade team entitled Fun and Games in the Middle School Math Classroom. All right, this grant is for the purchase of games and activities centered around math concepts that will be engaging to middle school students. Purchases include games, rich tasks, puzzles, and game packs that will allow students to see math as playful and creative while collaborating and cooperating with their peers. All right, next we have a $1,115.53 grant to the Kent Prairie first grade team. Thank you. Absolutely. The grant is entitled First Grade Small Group Classroom Library. It's for the purchase of books for the first grade team to share in their classroom libraries. The books selected will allow students of all ethnicities and backgrounds to see themselves represented in the pages of the books. These books also include a wide variety of reading levels and genres to present a wide offering of choices to the students in these classrooms. Next, $1,100 to the Kent Prairie second grade team. Grant is entitled Number Corner. For the purchase of Number Corner kits. Number Corner is a supplemental program for math that benefits overall number sets. The program will allow for a more equitable student experience through introducing second grade math concepts in activities that are based around universally designed instruction. And I saved the cutest grant for $500 to Bailey Newell at President's Elementary. Bailey, are you here tonight? Oh, man, all right, well, can you?
Yeah.
We do. I saved the cutest because it's for the purchase of high quality play kitchen equipment for the preschoolers in her class. She's getting a washing sink station, a stove, and a refrigerator to support those little preschoolers in parallel play opportunities and of course pretend play life skills. So with that, I'll thank you for allowing me to present these to you tonight. And of course, I'll ask you to consider them for approval as I've already handed them out.
So that leads us to our action item. First is our donation for $11,053.27. Do we have a motion from the board to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the donation from the Arlington Education Foundation for $11,053.27. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye. It has now been approved. Thank you. And thank you for all coming tonight. And you don't have to stay for the rest of the evening if you don't want to, but could you at least gather for a picture?
If you just come up with your certificates and kind of line right in front here, please.
I just want to say thank you for approving such a diverse and entertaining, awesome things for our kids. We appreciate all that the Arlington Education Foundation does.
You that's perfect, yeah. I see you'll see your faces. Hiding in the back.
You can form like a
Yeah,
semicircle.
oh, there you go. Okay, keep going, there you go, perfect, okay. Awesome. Okay, look right here, take a couple different pictures. Okay, nice big smiles, no blinking, hold it. One more, and with the flash, just make sure. There we go, nice big smile, there we go, perfect, one more. Awesome, thank you.
I know. Thank you.
I can take the second grade. And I could take Eagle. Yeah.
That brings us to the next item on our agenda, and that is our Title VI grant application for Indian education. And this is the action item that we've heard all about from Carrie Helgensen. We'd like to welcome Carrie back.
Thank you.
Are you gonna tell us any more?
Nope, so this is the action item, just seeking approval to submit the Title VI Indian education grant by May 12th.
Do any board members have any questions about the Title VI grant? Hearing no questions, this is an action item. Do we have a motion from the board to approve the Title VI grant application for the 23-24 school year?
I'll make a motion. We approve the Title VI grant application for the 23-24 school year.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Title VI Indian Education Federal Grant for the 23-24 school year. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The Title VI grant is approved. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is our approval of key calendar dates for 24-25. Like to welcome Eric DeYoung. Come on up. The crowd has shrunken significantly.
Is there That's okay. We can just talk about it.
Oh, yeah, just that. There you go.
There they are, right there. So we have, this just follows our normal pattern for dates for the school year. So we're gonna try to stay 1 year ahead. So we have next year's already approved. So we're approving the following year. So we have 2 years out. That helps for people to plan some of their major breaks, and vacation, teachers, and also community members. So that's the goal here. Ran this by both of our union, and they were fine with moving ahead with these key dates. These are kind of the three main ones that we figure out, and then we'll have to sort out some other dates, like there's usually a semester break day, last day of school, of course, which tentatively at this point would be June 12th. That's what it looks like if we kind of, again, follow the same pattern that we've been on. So any questions about this?
And it is an earlier start, you know, the last
Yeah.
few years have been a late start in September, so this helps to not be so late into June.
Still the Wednesday after Labor Day. But it's nice that Labor Day is a little earlier, so that helps us out. Hopefully to avoid kind of what we're in this year with June 19th being a holiday now, so this gives us more, it'll give us more days in between potential makeup days.
Any questions from board members?
Yeah, question for you is, I know there's some contract language around it, but what would be the complication of moving the first day of school to Tuesday, the 3rd of September? Granted, that's 2 years from now.
Yeah, I don't know if there's contract, I would have to review the contract language. I can't remember.
It does say-
Specify the Wednesday, I think it says the Wednesday after Labor Day. I believe with the AEA contract, and it's been our past practice as well for quite some time, quite a few years, except for the 1 year during COVID, actually, that we started before Labor Day.
Right.
Which happened, we kind of wish we wouldn't have, I think, especially that year, but.
We did discuss it with the district leadership team, and there were several events that would happen on that Tuesday. That the administrators said that are important to be ready for that day for families and for students.
Yeah, I think the elementaries have their open houses that day. Is that the one I think that's the main one.
Something like that.
Just concerned about getting out later in the school year due to everything, and I know there's some discussion, especially this year with starting, you know, even 1 day earlier than that. So understanding.
And this calendar kind of helps us with that a little bit, Mike. It gives us 4 days of potential makeup before June 19th even, so.
Right.
But it's not being quite the same tight scenario as we are this year.
Understood, but just like for, future. I mean, obviously in that 24-25 year, the dates kind of line up a little bit more, shall we say, to the benefit of avoiding that Juneteenth holiday, but that's not necessarily always going to be the case. And maybe just looking at long-term, moving it forward today to the Tuesday, but understand there's a lot of factors to consider.
Any other questions?
Hearing no other questions, this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the key calendar dates for 24-25 as presented?
Make a motion, we approve the key calendar dates for 24-25.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2024-25 key calendar dates. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
All right,
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you. Those dates are approved. We'd like to now welcome Gina Zutenhorst to talk about financial highlights of our current budget. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Gina Zutenhorst, Executive Director of Financial Services here to speak with the board. Financial highlights of the current budget as of March. So we are through the month of March. We've closed out the month of March. And this is our once a month agenda item where we go over the financial highlights with the board so that it aligns with our month-end close of presenting that data, and that we have the full budget report is in the consent agenda. So this is calling out, certain details and so our financial health of the district, we have some really good positives that are sustaining us through this fiscal year, the 22-23 fiscal year. We've had a healthy beginning fund balance that's helped sustain our operations. We have our 4-year educational programs and operations levy, EP&O. This is the 23rd year. This is the 3rd year of the 4-year levy. And so we have another full year of that. Federal funds, we have had an additional year of the Department of Health Learn to Return grant funding, which has been immensely helpful in providing additional labor assistance with the health services area and the nursing offices. We have our capital levy, and it is also the 3rd year of the 4-year levy for our capital levy. And you've heard all about the projects and things that has helped support and provide funding for across these past years. And the challenges. So we have actually been talking a lot about the financial challenges that are coming along. And this year we have had a spend down or continuing to spend down of a fund balance. And this has supported our programs and services through some really challenging times. And it results in a declining ending fund balance compared to prior years. So a reminder, our budget estimated the ending fund balance to come in at $4.2 million. Now, again, that's a budgeted number. It's a plan, and so it doesn't always come to full fruition that way, but that's the budgeted. Enrollment is recovering more slowly than hoped. We have about 58 full-time equivalent less students than we had budgeted for 22-23. And what that equates to then is about $850,000 less of state apportionment revenues that we would have planned for in our budget that we will not be receiving because of that difference. And we have federal and state pandemic relief funds that have been exhausted. So actually we don't have them actually, but that they have been utilized fully. And so that's a challenge with this year and going into next, is that those funds have been fully utilized. And then certain programs have unique needs that are greater than the revenues that are being generated by the associated funding models. We've spoken about our special education program, special needs, and highlighting that the state needs to do more to help support the district in being able to do some of the very critical and important things we need to do for our special needs students. Got to hear some of the presentation this morning, which was awesome, not this morning. you know, I mean, earlier in the meeting. Continuing to recover from impacts of the pandemic. We've had higher levels of services and staffing. And then our state funding models, they're reformulated by the McCleary decision, that those are continuing to lead to funding gaps. And that is going to be coming to play, especially in our next budget year, as we continue to talk about that. And we're in the process of those kinds of reductions for 23-24 for next year. We're in that process now, working those details out. So we've talked a lot about enrollment recovery, so I just want to kind of keep those ideas and numbers roundly in front of our board, just to keep awareness of the levels that we're at. This just basically shows that we have, over the past 6 years, increased by a net increase of 84 students. Okay, just, you know, we've had ups and downs in growth, and then some major declines during the pandemic. But 84 more. So we are still kind of in a growth pattern, but it is not recovered to what we were at pre-pandemic. Our budgeted student FTE was 5,427, not including Running Start. So again, that's about 58 students less than we had planned. Yet, we still have more students than we had the previous year. So I just was kind of conflicting message a little bit there when we say we have less than budgeted, but we have more students than we had last year. And then for next year, 23-24, we are estimating and budgeting for 5,373 students. Okay. And when we talk about our enrollment levels, we have also shared our staffing levels, because we have been talking about how we've maintained higher levels of services and staffing, especially bringing us through those pandemic years and in recovery. We, districts all across Washington State, were tasked with mitigating pandemic impacts and taking measures to accelerate student learning. So we talked about this, but that has been, along with the board recommended use of fund balance as rainy day one-time funds to continue to help mitigate those impacts and accelerate learning. And that was as costs were rising. And also that was done rather than a formal reduction in staff in the previous year for this year. And so again, the high levels of need were met with continued high levels of services and staffing. Many of those were previously bolstered by federal or state. And this is our fund balance trend. And the bottom line, the navy blue line, that is this year's trend. And it's matched up. Those other years are September through August, month to month to month. What level of fund balance we were at during those months. So this is really again highlighting that our fund balance is lower than it has been in previous years. It is following the same trend for the most part, as far as what it does in certain months and when it kind of levels out. March is one of the lower months that we have. So we are at about $4 million right now for March. Next month, I expect that to be popped back up, similar to that hot pink line. It won't be all the way up to the top of that, but in April, we start to see the collections, the first part of the collections for the 2023 property tax funds, the EP&O funding. So we will receive that in April, and that fund balance, when I come to you next month, should show back up. We are still carefully watching and monitoring all of the budgeted revenues for whether they're on trend and or whether we'll receive more or less of any of the typical revenue funding sources. Also watching the trends on our expenditures from month to month, looking at all of our outstanding purchase orders or encumbrances and looking to see if we can project where we're going to end for this year. And again, it remains to be seen if we will end between 4 to 6 million. And I'm really looking for as wherever we can, the indicators of, okay, here's the places where this helps us. But it's still, we're about just halfway through the fiscal year, April, May, June, July, August, 5 more months. So we're kind of a little over halfway through and we're still looking to see kind of how those trends pan out. Just always putting this in front of ourselves, the values that guide budget decisions. And then highlighting the flexibility around times of emergency for fund balance. And sharing that we have an old working forecast and we will be working on updating that into a much more meaningful 4-year forecast. But we still are projecting that we'll end between 4 to 6 million. And we're still in our reduction plan in motion for next year with a 5.9. So there's no change between the last time I spoke with you about anything budget related. Other than we'll talk more about legislative outcomes a little later. And then just talking again about our minimum fund balance policy. And I'm not making any kind of recommendation. I'm just sharing that there are varying levels of minimum fund balance that are deemed acceptable, deemed within range of what is considered a sound level. And wanted to draw attention to our board members, what levels that puts us at. So at 8% is where we're at right now with what our board policy wants us to have as a 1 month's average operating costs. It equals about 8%. And that would mean, based on our level of expenditures, that we would be trying to get to a level of fund balance in future years, because we know that we will not be at that for this fiscal year, and that's okay. We have discussed that all along, that that is allowed and appropriate and planned. But it would be a target of about 7.7 million to 8 million to get to if we were keeping with the 8% fund balance minimum. If we went to a minimum fund balance target of 6% of expenditures, that would mean a roughly fund balance of trying to get to of about 5.6 to 5.8 million. And then for the 5% level, it would be between 4.6 million to 4.8 million. And we will certainly continue to talk about this. We just want to bring these levels up for board member consumption to see those levels, to see that stratified. And we can talk about it more probably at future meetings as it becomes more relevant to what our future years are looking like, especially in our forecasts. So the 4-year forecast. And that is all I have for the financial highlights of the current budget. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from our Zoom members?
No questions. Thank you.
Hearing no questions, I want to say thank you, Gina, for bringing this to our attention again and being so thoughtful and considerate of all the different aspects of our schools, districts, finances. Thank you. The next step brings us to our 23-24 budget development briefing.
Right, so yes. Next up, we've talked about our current budget, and now we will talk about the steps going into development of next year's budget. So always want to bring up again that when we're talking about budgets and numbers, we are definitely keeping our mission, our school district main mission in mind, and the strategic plan goals and what is involved in resource stewardship. And this is the second time you've seen this slide today and probably multiple times over the past few months, but there it is again, and it's part of the presentation documentation. If you ever are wondering, where's those values? I know that it's in Gina's presentation, but it's also in board policy. This is where we're at on our budget development timeline. So you have been along for various of these steps. January 23, we had our enrollment adoption. That drives a lot of our staffing figures and estimates that we'll be preparing further later on, using what comes out of the legislature, we'll also utilize the enrollment figures that were adopted. February 15 was one of the first deadlines for potential people letting us know if they were retiring. And that is helpful in figuring out staffing levels as well. February, March, we have been working through multiple layers of staffing work sessions with leadership and cabinet and directors. And then April 10, we presented a reduction plan that was adopted by our board and that was unique for this year, needing to have a plan adopted because we're in a mode to need to reduce. April 15 was leaves of absence for people that are going to request a leave of absence as certificated staff. And that's also, again, helpful for us to know at that juncture and for staffing plans. And then April 23rd, which was yesterday, our legislature did get out of session on time. And now we're in the middle of trying to decipher all the information and decisions that have come out of that and how that will actually impact our revenues and expenditures. I'll be providing budget briefings between April and July as we build up to actually having the budget as the OSPI requires it in the format that OSPI requires me and us to do that in. May 15, we had our deadline for, it's not here yet, but that is the deadline to keep in mind that is the time that we must have notified our certificated staff if there are contracts, if they have contract for next year for employment. July 10 is the first budget draft. I'll be bringing that to the July 10 budget board meeting. And then August 14 is when we have slated to have a final budget for board consumption review. And then you do a budget hearing as required by law, and that would be proposed for adoption during that time. We have to have a budget adopted by law no later than August 31st. And that little picture on the right-hand side of the slide is included as an attachment to the board docs board plate, if you would care to refer to it. This is a little bit more detailed. And the next is actually just what I shared in the other slide. It's just a different visual depiction of the budget flow and the cycle for preparing our next year's budget. And that also is attached to the board plate, board docs board plate. So the planning underway, legislative potential, special education funding. I bet you we're going to talk a lot more about this, and I'm sorry if I'm going to steal Sherry's thunder, but we do have a little bit of information about our special education funding. They have for next year, they have increased the cap that was 13.5 to 15%. And I can't fully explain to you how that really works, but it is a factor that that limits our funding. So we want that percentage to be higher. Better. Higher is better. No cap would be better. Best is best, but 15% is better. They also increased some of the other multipliers that are part of that formula. Higher for inclusionary models, and a little bit different formula if a student is spending the majority of their time in a contained special education program. And safety net, which is part of special education for super high unique situations. There are certain high costs that we are able to qualify for under special safety net funding. It's federal and state funding together combined make up that program. And they've made that a little bit easier to access as far as where you have to get to trigger being able to get those funds. And so regionalization is the next thing to talk about, that we do know for our school district what our regionalization factor is going to be. Right now, it's 15%. And we did not know what the legislature was going to do with the regionalization factor, but they were required by law, we knew, to rebase it, to relook at how it was. And rather than changing how they did it, they didn't really make too much change to how they figured that out. Districts all around are still a little bit pondering at the mysteries of that. But nevertheless, the state legislature has set what those rates are going to be for each school district. And for us, we are going to receive what's called an experience factor for our certificated staff. So we will be at 16% rather than 15%. But that is also in the somewhat offset by classified staff and administrative staff. The factor is going from 15% to 13.5%. So it a little bit is a wash. It will be a little bit more than we planned for in our old forecasts. So there is a little bit of help there, but it's not going to be significant enough to change the trajectory of what we have set in motion to make adjustments to our next year's budget. The cost of living increase, we know it now, it is 3.7%. So Human Resources is working on building all of the contracts for the staff that we know we're going to have and working on the calculations of the exact cost for that. Revenues, there's some uncertainty around that still because we'll work on all our estimates for revenues for next year's budget using what comes out of the legislature. OSPI is building their forecast tool that school districts use for here's what the legislature said, but this is how it works out into that 40-page apportionment document that we work with. So they have to reprogram that whole thing, and then we'll be able to use that tool to get more exact figures. And but the biggest uncertainty will be where is our enrollment going to land next year? And will kindergarten and first grade numbers come in at what we budgeted, or will we have more? Or will we have more students all throughout our system? So we will see. Our, like I said, we talked about the expenditure part, so next. And yep, yes, I already said that too. OSPI does need about 4 to 6 weeks to make the changes to their tool. I'll be at a workshop in the next week or so where I'll be able to get some of the advanced, more detail and more information about some of the critical changes to our financial situations. And then I already talked about the regionalization factor. And then this is just re-highlighting the deadlines. So the lingo that I'll be using when we talk about next year's budget is the F-195. And that is the official budget document that OSPI requires all school districts to do their budgets in that format. It is 100+ pages of numbers, so it is not a very friendly document to look at. And so we always prepare some supplemental information that summarizes that in a little bit easier way to digest. But it's a lot of work to get it together, and we'll be bringing that. July 10 is the first format, and then again, August 14 is when we would propose for approval after a public hearing with public comment. And that's the end of my presentation today. Are there any questions?
Director Ray, Kelly, Kingman, anything?
Very thorough as usual, Gina. Thank you so much. And no, you did not steal any of my thunder.
All right, good.
Yeah, thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we'll have our new high school course, the Women in U.S. History, and this will be presented by Marilee Herman, our principal at Arlington High School, and Jane Downey. I think they're with us on Zoom. Hi, Ms. Downey. Go ahead.
I don't think Marilee is planning on being here, but Denise was supposed to be with me. But I'm Jane Downey. Hi, social studies teacher at Arlington High School, and we are proposing a new junior and senior level elective class called Women in U.S. History. Within the last year or so, we've been noticing that we need a little bit more variety for a last 0.5 credit in the senior elective pool. There's Denise. Hi, Denise. Denise, pipe in at any time if I get any of this history wrong as far as why we need this class, okay? So currently we have a few classes for seniors. The required classes for graduation requirement in social studies are 1 year of world history, 1 year of US history, and half a year, 0.5 credit of government. After that, there's one class that would be a 0.5 credit of elective, typically taken at the in the senior year. Sometimes depending on schedule uniqueness, it might be offered out to juniors to take that 0.5 elective credit as well. I shouldn't say elective credit, it is a social studies credit, but this is not the required social studies. We have a pool of classes that students can choose for that last social studies class. So what we are proposing is to add a new course, Women in U.S. History. This is a concurrent college and the high school course, which is one reason why we really want to offer this. More of that opportunity for college credit for our upperclassmen here. This class also is a little bit unique with some of the college and the high school courses, because this class also fulfills a diversity credit for students in their college requirements. So they get not only a social studies credit here for college level, but also the diversity credit that they need in their social studies choices in college. I have been working pretty closely with the teacher at Everett Community College. She and I have been in touch quite often to make sure that my syllabus and my course outline follow what she uses at EVCC. And another nice thing about this class is that we don't need to purchase any textbooks. So there is no startup cost for this. What I'll be doing is gathering together primary source documents from different time periods in history throughout the US history that are specific to the women's experience. Another thing that I really love about how this class is being designed is that it's touching on a lot of different minority groups at the same time under that umbrella of women. Our Native American groups are in here, our immigrants in every time period. Immigrants in every time period have been considered a minority group depending, right, on the different time periods. So we'll be able to touch a lot on that too. Also touching on the unique experience of former slaves, especially in the 1800s and moving into the early 1900s, and their unique experience as gaining that citizenship in the US, but also being women. And there have been several different women that I've been reading about, African-American in particular, who say that they felt more marginalized as a woman than they did as an African-American. Just very interesting stuff. We have quite a few students who have already expressed interest in it. I think it was 75 to 80 something students, even more, Denise is saying.
About 97. Yeah, we could have run. Yeah.
That's higher than even I was told, 2 weeks ago. So that's fabulous. I'm very excited to start teaching this class and hope that we can get some approval here. yeah, just, it's kind of my jam. And I'm having a really fun time doing the reading myself in preparing for this class and finding all of those really neat women's narrative voices there in different time periods in history. Any questions?
I'm gonna start with our student advisor. Kyle, do you have any questions for Ms. Downey and me?
I have one question. So it's similar, I asked this about, there was another course version that we talked about earlier. It was, we've already, I know the class registration for next year went out already, and was this on like the list that people could sign up for? Or is it gonna be something like an addendum?
It was offered in registration already, and that's how we have the numbers of students with the interest, and we have their specific names. I did visit all junior level US history classes here at AHS and talked about the course there. We sent around an interest list, and that list was given to the counselors, and that's what the counselors used to start populating the document list for the class itself. So right now we do have more than enough interest to offer one section of this each semester next year, pending board approval. And that's what we've been telling the students, it's pending board approval.
I would just clarify a little bit that so
Okay.
you would not, when you registered online, can you hear me? Sorry. When you registered online, you would not have seen the course because you can't put a course without a course code. And we can't get a course code until we get some approval. So, but it was, so exactly how Ms. Downing described the process of soliciting interest as their first choice, right? Not even just second choice, but first choice. But students had to register for some class, so they might have registered for something else also, but they listed if they were interested in having the women's US history course as their first choice, they signed up for that. So then what we'll do is shift those in once we get that course code into the system.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Do we have any other questions from any board members on Zoom?
I have a question. Jane, I'm really excited for this course. I think it's wonderful. It's honestly, in my opinion, a little past due, but I'm so glad that you're offering it. Speaking from a woman's perspective, of course. What I'd ask though is I think would be awesome is if you're able to like do a quick survey, like a sort of an entrance and an exit ticket with this group. So understanding that you'll probably have a good core of students attending, maybe do like a preliminary, hey, what do you think this course is going to be about? What do you think you'll learn from it? And at the end, see if they, what they came away with. I would love to see that feedback. And also I would be very excited if you could do some mini presentation to the board mid-year, or I guess it's just a 0.5. So maybe at some point I'd love to have some overview of what was accomplished, maybe just some summation of what some of your students did. And maybe even kids that you found that struggled through it a bit more, but then still walked away with a deeper understanding of women's history in the United States.
Yeah, 100 to everything you said. Yes, really, really good suggestions there. And I would love to return and talk about it some more. Yeah, as I've been telling the students, this is not going to be a repeat of US history. It's US history through a different lens. And I'm hoping that every student, regardless of their gender, is going to be able to connect to some lens in this course and expand their awareness of our society in general and have an expanded understanding of how society has progressed over time.
Thank you.
Director Ray, Director Kingman, any questions? Director Knapp.
I think this is awesome. Just reading through all of this, I really appreciate the intersectionality that's presented here. The one question that I did have is if there was going to be any representation regarding disabilities and how that has affected women, especially, here we're seeing different races and ethnicities. And oftentimes that intersection with disabilities also will get overlooked. I just was wondering if that was any part of it.
You know what? That is a really valid point to be brought up, and I absolutely will find a place to put that in as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Mrs. Downey, I have to confess that when I first read that title, that I thought, well, does US history even have any women? I don't remember learning about any women in the US history classes that I took. And then I jumped into some of your resources online and I was like, oh, I've heard of her and I've heard of her and I've heard of Amelia Earhart and Ruby Bridges and a lot of incredible women. So I wish that we had a lot more women in our regular US history class, and I applaud your efforts to highlight the contributions of women because we know they've been there all along and doing amazing things. So
yeah, it is really difficult. And I want to give a shout out to the social studies department because my colleagues are very cognizant of trying to have representation, right, as much as we can. But when we're at a 30,000 foot level, right, and we're talking about a survey course in US history, we can't put in as much as we would really like to. So that's one reason why this class is so exciting for the whole department. Actually, a lot of people have been talking about it, and there's been a lot of buzz around with the students as well. I've had lots of teachers tell me, I want to come take your class. And I would actually offer out the invitation to my classroom is one of the classrooms that I'm happy to have people drop in, approved, of course, at any time to come in and join in and learn some stuff with us.
are there any other questions from any other board members? This is an action item. And the recommended action is that the board approves the Women in US History course. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Women in US History high school course.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Women in US History course. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Well, I was 100% on board with this until I heard the term intersectionality. And so I got turned off in a big way, so I'm going to pass. Thank you.
okay. President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. That course is now approved. You can now register, two whole sections next year. Is that all? Okay, hope it's more later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is our course revision for Pathways English 1, and we will get to hear from Andrea Hundermark Dixon, our principal at Weston High School, and I believe Susan Blacklock. Yes.
So Andrea has got kicked off of the stream. So
Zoom strikes again.
Yes. Okay, so the next couple courses are kind of similar. So I'm going to present and then you can ask any questions you need. But this particular course has previously been approved. It's to meet the needs of students that previously were unsuccessful in English 9. The reason for the revision is that I wanted it to closer match up with what we're doing in the classroom. And more reflective of the curriculum that has been adopted by the Arlington School District, which is the My Perspectives. And so it will be proposed to be using the supplementary texts that are already tied to the curriculum. The idea is that by tying it to the same curriculum that has already been adopted, that we are getting the same scope and sequence, same skills, same standards that would have been met in the 9th grade had they passed the 9th grade for this particular course. I'm not really good at presenting, sorry.
You're doing great.
So that's kind of the general idea. I the proposal is this because we don't want students to have to engage in the same curriculum 2 years in a row. For instance, in ninth grade, they read Romeo and Juliet. Whereas I think it's a great book and I get to make fun of Romeo over and over and over again. In order to get kids to engage in it, we're going to read The Fault in Our Stars, which is essentially still the Star-Crossed Lovers. It's just not the same text. So you're giving the kids the opportunity to engage in those skills and those writing prompts, but not having to read the same material. Any questions?
Any board members have any questions about this?
No questions, just a comment on the literature chosen. I think that's a great suggestion, and I've wondered that myself. I think it's nice to provide some relevant, more contemporary literature. I think it makes it more attainable for students, and you can still go for the concept without being necessarily caught up in the language, which might be more of a barrier for some students than others. So I look forward to hearing how this goes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hearing no other questions, this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the course revision for Pathways English 1?
I make a motion, we approve the course revision for Pathways English 1.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the course revision for Pathways English 1. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The Pathways 1 course revision is approved. The next up is our new high school course, Pathways English 2.
All right, so the next two courses, you're going to hear the same thing. So if, with your permission, I'd just like to present it once because you're going to hear basically what I just said. So the Pathways English classes, both 2 and 3, are a way for students who have previously been unsuccessful in English 10 or 11, depending on whether it's 2 or 3, to earn credit for those classes. The structure of each course follows the scope and sequence with regards to the skills and standards of the district adopted curriculum, My Perspectives. In order to accomplish this, each class utilizes the supplementary text assigned to each grade band. For instance, they'll read The Help in, I believe, I would have to look, but I believe that's in Pathways English 3, which would be the 11th grade supplementary text for, I think it's Unit 6. So, again, focusing in on the same skills, the same expectations, the same standards, but just meeting it in a different way. The additional thing is that another one of the books they'll read, if approved, is I Am Malala, so kind of getting it closer into modern times. The other thing is that we should be using some informative text. So that will be using the free version of Newsela, also the free version of Common Lit, because we've already approved the curriculum. So we've already got, for the most part, class sets of these texts. And so it won't cost anymore. And it's already been, My Perspectives has already been approved. So hopefully there isn't an issue. Any questions?
Hey, and this is Andrea. I was able to get my phone to connect, so I'm here if anybody has got questions for me too.
I hear no questions from board members, but we're going to vote for these two courses separately. Do we have a motion to approve the Pathways English 2?
I can move to approve Pathways English 2.
Thank you, Mike.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Pathways English 2. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you. That course is adopted. Do I have a motion to approve Pathways English 3?
I so move.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Pathways English 3 course. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you. That course is adopted also. Thank you, ladies, for being with us tonight and sharing that information.
Thank you.
Next up is our legislative priorities 23-24 discussion. And this is in our new business as it could be an action item. So Director Kelly.
Take it away.
Away.
Take it away. Sorry, I'm not there in person. It's a little more awkward on Zoom, but I will try my best. So basically, in a nutshell, what it comes down to is, let's say we have over 100 legislative positions. There are really essentially the same positions we revisit every year, and there are so many. And what I asked in the fall for our group was to determine our top 10. So what I would say is, I feel very confident that WASDA is doing their utmost in refining and clarifying how we want to tweak our legislative priorities. Certain schools, might have had an agenda on a particular issue over another, and so they have applied. They have been, that has been something that's been listed. I would suggest at this point that I'm happy to read over or even send an email. We have our top 10, and if there's something on those that we want to change, again, that won't take effect until November when we meet in person. We'll submit that a month before in October, and then in November when we meet as a WASDA body, then we will put forward our collective priorities that will go to the legislature in 2024. So that's all I would say is it's very nuanced. If you remember, I was going through it today. There are over almost 30 pages front and back, essentially, of what each priority looks like. And they're all categorized depending on if they're learning or if they're funding and allocations. It's great. But I myself feel too new in the position. And I just, for myself, recommending something to the board of making a nuance of a change. It doesn't seem like that's a place where at least I'm at right now. So I would feel more comfortable in just saying, if you have absolutely something in saying, I really want to see this kind of policy, I want this brought up to the legislature. If you want to submit that to me personally, I'm able to look at that and see what we have currently on that. And then maybe even talk to Marissa Rathbone, who's our strategic advocate, and talk with her and say, hey, this was a topic our board had. Where is that? Where does that currently exist in one of our positions? Or does it even exist? Or can we make a tweak to that? So I think that would be my recommendation at this point. These are things that, like I said, WASDA has put together every year, many years in a row now. So I really wouldn't, I got excited about the opportunity for a voice, but then in talking even to Dr. Sweeting and you all, the timeline for doing that is a really tight timeline. We have like a month in between we have to do this in a public forum, and that just doesn't give us a lot of space. So do you have any other questions for me? I mean, does that sound like something, if you have an idea, if you want to just bounce that over to me via email, we can look through that, or I can, like I said, connect with Marissa and certainly address if there's something that you're maybe not seeing. I'm happy to do that.
So Sherry, this is Chris.
Yes.
I think that any topic that the board wants to consider, we would do it in a meeting like this or a discussion. So
okay,
if ideas or topics come up and they're either sent to me, or if they do come to you, you can forward them to me and we can set another agenda time, so
sounds
that
good.
they can be talked about publicly, in a public.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Thank you for clarifying that is a very important piece to this. So absolutely. So I'll just kind of send it out there. So if people have some thoughts, maybe even just send it directly to Dr. Sweeting, and then we can put that on our next board agenda.
That would be the best option.
Great.
If the board had some ideas that they wanted to, we could work on it tonight and decide on what our priority thing is. Like if everybody on the board was really excited about special ed funding caps and we wanted to write a position statement and vote on it, that is something that is appropriate in a board meeting. Or if we wanted to say that we really support the decreasing the vote to pass a bond to be a simple majority, then that would be something that we could talk about and discuss and come up with as an action item during a meeting. So if there is anyone that would like to speak up on the board about any of our legislative priorities right now, this is something on our agenda we can talk about.
I'm having trouble remembering what our top 10 were, but I know that the supermajority and special education were both on there. I'm wondering what WASDA is even thinking about presenting for next year. But I read today somewhere that we're like only one of 7 states that has to have is that called the supermajority vote? I would like to see that become a little bit more attainable.
I know a lot of other districts are struggling with the same things we are. So it'd be really interesting to see if we're all in the same boat, then we don't all have to submit 400 different priorities.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
I will say, Mary, that on a financial basis, we are very much in the same boat, and our boat's a little bit lighter, actually way lighter than a lot of districts. So just in reading the Seattle Times and what other states are doing just down the road from us, you know, we're in a pickle, but not as big of a pickle as other districts. So, and that's really to no one's fault. It's just the hand we've all been dealt. And Erica, to your question, I did have the top 10, but the top one was support for special ed. Then we had equity-based education system funding, full funding for basic education, which I dispute that is still not being met according to our Constitution. Protecting local effort assistance, removing barriers for innovation in public schools, sexual harassment, assault and abuse prevention and response, student access to sports activities and services, student reentry and re-engagement, and universal free school meals. Yeah. So again, a great list that we prioritized. That doesn't mean that, again, with the batch that we have that are continuing, that there isn't something that might push up. If we say that the bond, the supermajority, I concur. I think that should almost be one of our tops, because we're coming right into something like that coming up. We are going to be facing that reality. So for future, I think that would be something that we should explore. Maybe bump something out and make that one of our priorities.
Any other board members have any thoughts about this agenda item? All right, thank you, Director Kelly, for bringing this to our attention. I didn't know how that process works, so it's nice to learn something new. Next up on our agenda is our informational items, and we'll start with our superintendent's report.
So the very first thing I want to start with is to say thank you to Brenda and Debbie, because this week is an administrative assistance week, appreciation of the people that are our hands and feet and backbone and heart and all those things. So thank you to both of you for just taking care of all the things that we need as leaders in this system. And so we appreciate you both greatly, and all of the assistants in our whole district. So I know they're being honored in different ways. Tomorrow we're having cabinet is bringing food from home, and we're making sandwiches and desserts and things and lunch for our district office staff here. So having a meeting and a lunch. So thank you to everyone. They're just really, all I can say is that they know the needs before we even know them. They respond before we even know that it needs to be responded to. And that is very, very neat. Some other things I want to say is that We will be visiting tomorrow. I know the board president and myself and others to post middle school in Eagle Creek. So we have some visits for tomorrow. I also want to say that recently we received what's called a transportation efficiency factor score, and we got 100%. And our executive director of operations Brian Lewis explained this in cabinet, what this really means. And what it means is that first of all, we're compared to other districts of our size, but they look at the transportation, the time, the distance of our routes, and they rate you in your efficiency. And we were awesome in that. So thank you to our transportation. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Cheryl and Charity and all the people there that are making that happen. And then finally, in that world of the bus world, on May 6th, so before our next meeting, regular board meeting, there's this thing that I never have heard of before, but we have 3 staff from the transportation department that are going to be in a bus rodeo. So ROADEO, rodeo. And what that is that they actually, compete, or they go out and perform in front of judges, and they have an obstacle course, and they have to back up the bus and do all sorts of things. And it's Lisa, I would love to see it, but 3 of our staff members are going to participate in this rodeo. So I'll give you a report on the 8th about how it went. So, and that's all I have to know.
Awesome. Next up is our legislative update and discussion. Director Kelly, do you have some more information for us?
Couple things. Yes, I did attend the Mount Vernon, what was that one called? That was called the regional meeting, and it was very well attended. They were having a science fair that night, so it was a robust group of people that were milling around the school. It was wonderful seeing all the adults and the kiddos. What we basically talked about was community outreach and what different schools. I ended up sitting with some folks from Darrington and Lakewood and Whidbey Island. So it was similar groupings that we met with down at Olympia when we did that day on the hill. Anyway, so we had a nice discussion about what different schools were doing or what they wanted to do. They don't have the same staffing that we have, but we shared about community voices, hearing student voices, the importance of getting parents involved in their feedback. Mount Vernon is looking at doing a balanced calendar and maybe more of a work-life balance for their staff. So they are going to do community outreach to find out what the pulse is on that topic, which will be very exciting. Another party one that was presented that night was that if, as a school district, Arlington wants to be a presenter at one of the breakout sessions during the WASDA conference, we have until May 31st to decide if we will participate and what topic that might be. I think that was a lot of fun last year. And if we have something that's relevant, we've had success with, I think we should share it with our group. The topic this year, the theme for WASDA will be focus. So we can move on past belonging and we'll work on focus, and that will take place in Bellevue, November 16th to the 18th. The other part is, as you all know, because Gina went and let the cat out of the bag, but yes, the legislative session is over and it did not go into special session. I think there's a few issues that the governor would like completed, but that does not relate to us. And that was it. I'm meeting tomorrow night as our ledge reps with Marissa. So I think they intentionally moved tonight's meeting to tomorrow, give themselves a day to kind of gather that information. So I will give you an update on what some of that looks like in terms of special ed funding, any caps or et cetera, those good stuff. I will give you an update on our next meeting, but I don't know what that looks like yet. So I will provide that at our next board meeting to present to you and the public. But other than that, all is good.
Thank you, Director Kelly, for sharing. That's really exciting. And thanks for attending that meeting and representing us. Next up, we'll have our comments from board members. Start with our student advisor, Kyle. How many more days left of school?
Around 35. It's my rough estimate. But I would just begin. Thank you to Brenda and Debbie. Just following the superintendent with that. And then also thank you to the Arlington Education Foundation, a lot of donations. And past that, I don't really have any updates. Have a good night.
Director Ray, do you have anything you'd like to share with us tonight?
No, just, again, thanks to Brendan, Debbie, and really all the administrative staff and everybody that helps out there, but no additional comment.
Director Kingman?
Well, thank you for asking. I have no further comments.
Thank you. Director Kelly? Anything further?
Nothing, just again, thank you as well to all our administrative staff. I know they really are the just such an engine that makes our schools function very well. So thank you to our staff.
Thank you. Director Knapp?
I had something prepared, but I think I'm gonna throw it out because those Pioneer students pretty much blew me away with their presentations. And I was asking what grades they were in because I was just thinking they're taking these skills that they're learning in elementary onto middle school very soon. And it brought tears to my eyes to hear them read their essays about inclusion and what they see in their peers. And I really wanted to honor Jaden and sharing his story and all of those. I mean, that was a perfect example of inclusion to me. And I loved Matthew's comment about normal is a setting on a washing machine. I don't know why they even have that normal setting anymore. I don't know what normal clothing is. And I kind of just wanted to comment. I think I was the one who used the word intersectionality, and I wanted to define that for myself and the way that I meant it was between race and gender, because we know women's experiences of all races and ethnicities. And I like that they were really diving into the details of that in the course. So that's what intersectionality meant to me in that context. So
thank you for your clarification and your comment. I want to share that I am looking forward to going on school visits tomorrow also. Looking forward to seeing learning in action and all the joy that the children have and the teachers. It's incredible to watch, and it fills my happy bucket when I go see kids at school learning. I was able to go to the Facility Advisory Committee meeting last week, and I learned some really important things, and I know that we'll be talking about that later. And I was also quite moved by the students from Pioneer and the beautiful, colorful displays and the videos and their brave stories of sharing what school is like for them. And I loved seeing all the helpers in the school, and I just was so impressed by what we're doing to help every child seek their full potential. So thank you for bringing those amazing kids to us. I want to remind everybody about our next meetings, that we have our Spring Community Voices event on Zoom at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, April 26th, and there will be possibly a quorum there. And then we have a regular board meeting scheduled for Monday, May 8th at 6 p.m. right here in the district office boardroom. If there's no other agenda items, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Have a good